Hello and welcome to Page Turners with me, Advaita Kala. I'm delighted to be joined by a very feisty and fierce author this afternoon. And I don't want to spend too much time in introducing her because, frankly, she doesn't need much of an introduction. So, Tahira Kashyap, welcome to Page Turners and congratulations on your new book.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. How are you doing?
Very well. And, I read your book and I have to say it had me smiling right through.
I'm just so glad. I'm just so glad.
And for those of you who are wondering, it's Tahira's new book, Seven Sins of Being a Mother. It's so candid, it's refreshing.
How blatantly I'm blatantly I'm promoting my book.
As you should. Although I don't think it'll need much of a push because, like I said, I'm not a mother, but just the insight and the window that you opened into the life of motherhood was something that I think I've read like this for the first time in my life. I mean, it was so intimate and so personal that I almost felt like I was experiencing these things having never been pregnant or a mother.
Wow, that's so amazing. Thank you so much. This means a whole lot.
So, Tahira, what I know you're an author, you're also a director, you're directing your first feature film, if I'm not mistaken, right now, and you keep a pretty busy schedule.
No, I said I try to keep myself busy. No, I love doing what I'm doing. So I guess that's why things are just happening back to back. I enjoy the process of storytelling and then be it whatever medium. So yeah.
So, how do you find the time? I'm curious about that because I always find a dozen excuses not to write. And here you are with kids and a busy life and a film and everything, and you're doing the
And this
books.
lovely dog with me who's sitting right there. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, there
So
it is.
I, I have company all the time. So whether it's kids or it's the dog, she's right here. So as would you, yeah, Adwaita, I think all of us are doing a fab job in living this life. All of us are playing multiple roles, and it's. I'm as busy as you are. I'm sure you're doing much more. It's just you're being very humble about it, but I think we all are doing a great job.
And tell me, Tahira, let's dive right into the book. You speak about your first pregnancy as something that you had not planned, and then subsequently get into your second pregnancy, which you hadn't planned either.
Damn, who does that? I really want to know myself. Like, who does that? We were really dumb and high on Punjabi hormones. I think I don't know what was wrong with us, but it was just one after the other and both unplanned. Matlab, once bitten, twice shy. We don't understand that. That idiom doesn't work for us. So yeah, I managed to do it twice over, and yeah, it's been a crazy ride with them. I have covered that in the book. And as you would see, this book is not tips, it's not a guide, it's not like this is a way to get pregnant. So it's hardly got to do with, being a mother. I think if you're a woman or you sort of identify as one, I think there'll be a lot of things that you would resonate with. You, like you said in the beginning, particularly, you're not a mom, right?
No.
So, but there was still a few things that you could resonate with, and that's what the book is about. It's about really not being a typecast of each other. It's very simply. I think women at large are really put into boxes. So there are good girls and there are bad girls. There is a heroine and there is a vamp. So there is nothing in between. But we are full of layers, and there's so much of complexities that we have, and I feel that hasn't been addressed enough. But the same thing becomes more of a mold once you become a mother. Then you are this holier than thou image where you possibly can't have sexual feelings, you cannot. So I don't know what you become, but I certainly did not have all of that in my life. I did not feel like bas ab mere Karun Arjun aayenge types, I just I didn't feel like that, and then I realized not everybody feels like that, and I wanted to sort of address this issue, and I wanted us to cherish our own sinful journeys Why am I calling it sinful? Is because it is not adhered to a particular typeset which has been put across through various social mediums, whether it's advertisements or whether it's films or whether this time and again the social message that we get of a mother is of her just breastfeeding her children and she's compromised her life for the sake of the children. So, but all of us are not like that. And there is no, I'm not shaming any category. I'm just saying that there are various women with various stories. And here's a sneak peek into my sinful journey.
Tahira, what I loved about your book, and this I said in the beginning as well, was the intimacy. How difficult was it, being that you live such a public life, was it to be so open and about your own personal journey?
I read it somewhere. I've forgotten where I read it, but it just resonates so well with me. Um, that I take my work seriously, but I don't take myself seriously. And I do not think about this social influencer or somebody who is little known. I don't really think about that because that doesn't add to my profile. That doesn't add to my database or who I am as a person. So I don't take that part of me seriously. But what does give me happiness is writing. And yeah, I'm pretty much an unfiltered person, which you would have figured by now. And I am ready to embarrass myself and my family with this another book. My publisher is always smiling, and I was like, I know why you're smiling. That means I'm even more blasphemous than before. She was like, yeah. I was like, very nice. You're getting your laughs at my cost. But I just cannot have filters when I am writing. I just feel I'm not being true to my craft and true to what I want to actually.
I lost you at that point where you said you have no filter.
Yeah, I completely have no filter. I'm pretty blasphemous, and I think I'm an embarrassment to my family. And I haven't made my family read this book, but once they do, I'm very sure I shall be disowned. Which partly I was last year, but that's my process. Yeah, I do not like to sort of filter too much, and like I said, then I feel that I'm not being true to myself or what I really want to convey. And then when the book reaches the editing phase or when it's being published is when I get anxious and I get the pangs. I'm like, oh shit, I don't know what have I written, what was I thinking, what was I doing? But then it's too late and it's gone into print. So but I nonetheless, I'll be lying if I say I don't enjoy the process. I do. But behind every chapter or everything that I have written, there is something substantial. And in between all the laughs and gags and between all of that, I really wish people can see the intention that I have, and the meaningful message which is subliminally sort of somewhere there that gets conveyed.
Very. I loved your Masi. I think she has no filter either. So,
Yeah,
what is?
she's a character. She's a full-blown character, and there's no iota of exaggeration. She is what she is, and I think this unfiltered approach really runs in the family. Though she really was instrumental in me getting my labor pains, as you would have seen, she came up with the most obnoxious ideas of how to induce labor. And yeah, it is. She's a crazy one, but I love her very dearly. She's amazing.
And your father, I mean, I feel such sympathy for him to be to be at that
Yeah.
dining table where these conversations are going on.
Unfortunately, he's the most uncomfortable and embarrassed. Like he's a cool father, but he would never have this conversation. And somehow or the other, each and every time such a conversation happens, it happens in front of him, the person who's least. So it embarrasses him to no end. But I just don't know how these conversations end up in front of him only. So yeah, I'm very sorry, Papa.
And Ayushman, how has he read drafts of the book? Have you kind of handed him a couple of pages and said, what do you think?
So I think he's given up on me. When I, of course, I do read out chapters, or I do. We share scripts with each other. We share material with each other. We have an interest and inclination towards it, so that really helps. But my intention of sharing it with him is not for him to give approval, or edit it, or let me know what is right and wrong. I always give my disclaimer. This is just for you to read it, to tell me how the graph is. Critical, you sort of criticize in a very constructive way, but in no way am I going to. I have not given this authority to anyone now. I have done enough of it and more during my 20s, and I realized it just doesn't go anywhere, and you're not the truest version of yourself. So this power lies solely within me, and the intention of sharing it with him is for constructive criticism, or just to tell me how the writing or the flow or the grammar is. But it is never for him to filter out or give me permission to publish certain stuff or not. It's just not that.
And I think that's amazing, because you've known him forever. I mean, you've been together since you were 18, is what I read in the book. So
Yeah.
this has
God
been
damn it,
quite.
I did not venture out. I really wish I had earlier on. What is this nonsense?
I know, and you are kind of looking for your Facebook, through your Facebook, for your high school crush.
Imagine what are the odds, and I'm doing that while I'm pregnant. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so yeah, I have done very stupid stuff. But then I realized, these feelings, it's not that we are oblivious to it. I'm just being as human as possible, and I think each one of us goes through that. I mean to say, you do at times remember your high school crush. You do at some point of your time or your life, you want some attention. You crave for attention, and it's just that like I said, I haven't taken my social media presence or the number of followers or whatever very seriously. And whatever I enjoy doing, enjoy writing, and I was just being the truest version of myself. Of course, I did remember, and I tried to search him. And unfortunately, as my luck would have it, the only person who had the number of that person was my husband. And because he's in the same boys group, and it was just so embarrassing, and what an idiot. I mean, so who is it who's not present on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram? And out of all the people, this particular person who had this deep crush on me, and who really pursued me for a long time, and I enjoyed every bit of it, just didn't have any social media presence. The only thing that was left was his phone number, which apparently my husband had it. So I've gone on to say how I stalked my husband, how I harassed him, and how I got the number, and then what did I do later on once I got the number is something for you to read it in the chapter. But I've done all of that, and I'm admitting it, my sin.
Speaking about your childhood, there was this very moving episode about the bullying that you experienced from some kids, and it had a lot to do with this financial class kind of issues, wherein you came from this middle class family. These were family friends of your parents, old friends, and you had these interactions with these kids who were quite nasty with you. I'm filmy enough to wonder, what are they saying now?
Yeah, I just think kids are very ruthless. They understand things too well, but at the same time, the kind of sensitivity that we show to them as adults, I think kids are very blasphemous, and they're very moldable. So however you try to mold them and you correct them, they get corrected. So I just feel, yes, I was bullied as a kid, to an extent that it had a deep impact on my belief in myself. I had started stammering, whereas I was the captain of the co-curricular team, like I said, in my junior school, and suddenly I couldn't speak two straight sentences in English or any other language. I was just so conscious about myself all the time. But my only two bit is, of course, you need to stand up for yourself. You need to put a stop to bullying, and at the same time, my little message to the bullies is also, or the parents is, of course, I don't believe in helicopter parenting, but I also believe in a lot of compassion. If we can instill that in our kids, whether they are the bullies or being bullied, I think the communication with the kids, and sort of reaching out to kids, it's very, very important. So this chapter primarily is got to do with communication. The day you feel that you're not even having, you don't know what's going in your child's life, and you're not open to any communication, and barriers start building up, then you don't know what is happening behind your back. What is, whether she or he is being bullied, or he or she is the bully. In either case, in either of the categories. Whereas the kids, I'm sure they are grown up adults now, and I have met them, and it seemed a very decent lot.
Mhm.
It doesn't even look it was the same people who were bullies as kids, but I think that's also got to do with maturity setting in. My only two bit is that we just need to make world a happier place for all sort of kids, and to cherish individuality. Whenever one person does not adhere to the nature or the being or the status, or the choices of the majority of the group, then there is a sort of alienation. Instead of alienating, I just feel we should sort of embrace individuality.
Your kids will have obviously a very different upbringing, or experience, maybe not upbringing, but certainly an experience than you and Ayushman did, just by virtue of who their parents are. And the Bollywood, the glitz and glamour, the attention, all of those things, your holidays. Recently you went on a holiday to the Maldives, that was all over the media. How are you planning on combating this? Because you're extremely grounded, and you're in a world that is completely about all of these tinsels and bells and whistles and all of that.
And my only piece of advice, or it's something that I try to emulate, like I said earlier, was to not take yourself too seriously. This is not the truest version of yourself, and this is not the ultimate version. This can't be a source of happiness. Also, it cannot be a source of validation. You sharing a part of your life on social media just because you enjoy it. But the day you're not getting so many likes and so many comments, that cannot pull you down. That can't be your core. And so my kids don't have a phone right now, neither do they have any social media presence. And I don't even know what age to sort of give them a mobile. I see kids around, do they have started getting? So let's see. I don't know when do I give them the permission to do that, but there is a really a sense of understanding, and I don't treat my kids as individuals who don't understand stuff. So they are pretty much a part of our dining room and drawing room discussions and living room discussions, and of course, few filtered stuff that you don't want to talk in front of them. We don't, but then I never undermine their intelligence. So I feel the best way to bring up your children and for them to be grounded is for you not to speak, but let your actions speak louder than words. So I think this is what they're going to see, and I hope they come up to be good, compassionate citizens, and that's the intention.
And just based even on our brief interaction, just how amazingly authentic you are, and I think you're going to bring that into your life, and already probably do. I was curious about this. What you mentioned about not immediately connecting with your firstborn, and feeling that disconnect, taking you a little time. Talk about that actually, because this was the big moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the books that I've read, all the self-help and pregnancy books and all that and also my mom, when so, like I said, I'm not undermining anybody's experience, but I was really going by what all the majority of the books spoke about, and also of my family. And my mom, my birth was a big moment for her, and she made it a point that the moment I was born, she held my hand, and I sort of curled my hand around her finger, and she formed a bond immediately. Now, this is what I had in my mind, and I was like, okay, I'm set for this amazing gamut of emotions that I've not experienced. But sure enough, once the baby is out, I'm going to feel all of it. It'll all come rushing to the surface. But unfortunately, I had a very intense 12-hour labor, and all that I was doing was abusing. And so it went from very sweet and docile abuses to chaste Punjabi. I was doing all of that. And I was like, just get this thing out of my system. And then, okay, then we went for an emergency C-sec, and the baby comes out, and I'm calm and composed. And I'm looking at the baby, and then I'm looking at the doctor, and the doctor has a lot of expectations in her eyes, and I absolutely freeze. I do not know what to do next because I did not have all those motherly feelings that was always spoken about. I didn't feel the need to embrace him or like smother him with kisses. कुछ हो ही नहीं रहा था. I was just silent, and then I saw two sets of judging eyes. One is the doctor and one is my son. Nowadays, kids are born with open eyes. So he's also looking at me, and I was like, oh, fuck, this is not going anywhere. Sorry for the customer, but I was like, shit, what am I supposed to do? And I was like, okay, I'm getting my act together. And the maximum that I could do was I still could not extend my arms. The only thing that I could do was under pressure, I wriggled my nose against his. And then I told the doctor to take him to his family. And that even made her more offensive. His family? What do you mean his family? I was like, yeah, just take him out. So, yeah, and that was my experience. And perhaps it's a sin, but my love for him, it grew over time, over weeks and months and years with experience, in the sense my attachment to him grew more and more. As much the more he responded, the more he spoke, the more he did stuff, and the more he stayed with me, you start falling in love like that. It was not love at first sight, for me at least. So yeah, yeah.
You know, you had that sexy weekend in Bangkok, which kind of left you more traumatized. Not only you, but even your husband.
Yeah, we pretty much were. We had decided, यार बस बहुत हो गया, अब निकलते हैं बाहर और कुछ action packed life होगी. And he traumatized me more. I hope you read about the protein shake. And I was, expressing milk, and what happened to that milk? It was just blasphemous and in a way incestuous. I was like, oh God, this is not incest, but it's just feeling so creepy. And I had to hide myself, and before expressing milk, because of his gym routine and his and all of that. So he scarred me for life. So that incident is really HD. And my sister-in-law, she just read a Kindle version, and yesterday she messaged me. She was like, she's marked the entire thing, and she's like, is this true? I was like, listen, I'm not meeting you for Diwali. I'm not meeting anyone who's read this book. You all have visuals now.
Yeah, this Bangkok Holiday is a movie in itself.
It was, man. And then we went to this infamous ping pong show. Oh my God, what the hell was that? And all of that, of course, it's there in the book, but it was pretty much a disastrous trip, and which led to no romance as we had thought. But it was a journey in itself.
I know it's. I mean, I must suggest to the readers that do read this book. I mean, it's just. I'll tell you, it'll keep you laughing and smiling, and it'll touch you in ways that you don't anticipate. And I don't think it's only for mothers to read. Yeah. Like I said, I mean, I just think that there's so much insight and intimacy, and I just think so brave in so many ways, Tahira. Really. Hats off to you, because you're gonna probably curse me for saying this, but there is this creature called the star wife.
कहाँ है ये booklet? कहाँ है star wife? कहाँ है ये pamphlet? कहाँ है? Where is the examination? I want to give the exam papers. Where is the syllabus?
No, but you must have. There must have been attempts to induct you into that club for sure. And
I've been asked silly questions like, now since you are a star's or an actor's wife, now you'll take up to interior designing. I said, why would I do that? why will that happen? So it took me quite a while to put things together, and I'm sure the lovely ladies who are doing that, who have a caliber for it, and they're individuals in their own right who want to do that, but that doesn't become a prerequisite. I was like, why would I ever do that? I have no sensibilities and caliber for the same, but there are some silly expectations, and I think I have really let down everyone, and I'm just so sorry for doing that. But I don't know uh, what star wife means and how to clear the exam for it.
I know, and even your transition, you speak about being small town girl, having a certain life that you're used to, family close by, not at all understanding what your husband did for a living, or at least not sympathizing with his hours. How was that transition for you? I mean, to go from one world to such a different world. And his success has just kept growing, growing, growing. Knock on wood. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, with God's grace, it's going good, and I really think it's got to do with evolving as a human being. So maybe to put it in a secular term, my husband's profession was a source of problem for me, but I just think of it, the problem was in me. I had a very low life state at that point of time, and perhaps if my husband was a banker or a businessman, I would still have the same issues. Just to think of it, the security was in me. I needed to figure out things for myself. It was a process of evolution and transforming myself. And I had, of course, it was a difficult route for me, and definitely the on-screen presence and with younger girls. And here I was pregnant with my when his first film came. I was at the same time pregnant. I was like 20 kgs up, and all these insecurities come, but I'm not justifying those insecurities. I mean, there's a way of saying कि अरे यार मेरे को तो insecure होना ही था, but that's not the way. I realize that's not the correct sense. I mean to say, if you're feeling insecure, or if you then there's something that you need to work on yourself. And it took me quite some while to figure that out for myself, but courtesy of this lovely practice that I follow, and I did realize, and then each and every year or month or day, I was just evolving as a human being. And that really just didn't help me counter or overcome one issue, which was apparently my immature self. But also many other things. It really helped me face my health challenge that I had, and it just made me more equipped in life to deal with various situations. And it's definitely become the foundation of my being now. So I think it was the process of evolving and growing. I think this is what growing up means.
And I mean, the relationship between husband and wife also changes after children, I'm sure. Especially in a situation where you've been, I guess, school time sweethearts and then college sweethearts and then your
Yeah.
tweens and your 20s and then 30s.
Then 30s, and then
How's it
we
changed?
midlife crisis sweethearts, and then retirement sweethearts. It'll just continue. um, but you know what? I like the fact that you've always added the sweethearts, because we really have come to understand each other, and what has worked in our favor is there's a very big congruent area between our likings and something that we are passionate about. Our work, the kind of music that we listen to, or the kind of stuff that we read, or the books that we read, or the films that we watch. It's not that we are a replica of each other. I watch more movies than him, I read more books than him, but he listens to one new song every day. He has to listen, discover a new artist every day. And in the process, I think we guys are just teaching each other a whole lot. We are learning so much after all these years, also. And that's happened only because we've given each other the space to grow. So he's growing in his individual sphere, and I'm growing in my individual sphere. And then when the two of us meet, there's something to learn from each other. So it's not always about love and sex and romance, but there is a whole lot of companionship. And I think that is something that really has sustained the relationship. And we are really, really more of friends. And yeah, good sex also counts. So yeah.
That you have to read the book because I don't want to give all of that away.
Yeah, we can't.
But Nahida, you've had an amazing ride so far. From all the experience you've had, the success, the health scare, the all of it. What has been your learning on this journey so far?
I think it's a very exciting life. Every time there's something new which is happening. So when I thought that everything is going to be easy, like I was directing my feature film, I had this another health scare where I was in the ICU for having doodhi juice. Like who
Yeah,
will
I
get to the
remember that.
hospital after having doodhi juice, yeah, and that to ICU. So I just laugh at what is happening, and I just let life
That
take
was
its
2 weeks
course.
ago or something, right? Very recent.
Yeah, it was very, very recent, just about 2, 3 weeks ago. 2 weeks, yeah, 2, 3 weeks ago. And so I was directing from my ICU room. I took permissions from my doctors, but they had to really monitor my vitals because the BP had really, really crashed
Hmm.
down. I was dehydrated. So imagine what are the odds? Gentle doodhi, matlab, क्या लौकी का जूस but yeah, crazy stuff happens to me, and I'm okay. And I think each one of us are living our life where all of us are having our own unique challenges. It's not that just my challenges are unique and they're intense. Each and everybody is going through their own shit, if I'm allowed to say. But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, we are going
totally.
through our own bit. But that's what life is. It's never going to be free of obstacles. It's just how how much you can sort of joyfully challenge your challenges. I think this is what life has been teaching me, or I have learned from whatever experiences I have had. That they're never going to end. They're never challenges are never going to end for any one of us. It's just how equipped you are to deal with those challenges. So that's my
And no
takeaway.
one's life is perfect. Nobody's life is perfect. I think
Not
that's
at
the big.
all, not at all, not at all. As sanitized and beautiful and gorgeous and fully filtered life looks on social media, that's just not it for everyone. Everyone has their own set of challenges. So yeah.
Zahira, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been such a
Thank
delight
you.
speaking to you. And speaking to you, I can tell our viewers that reading the book is like having a one-way conversation with you, but it's all you, all there, 100% authentic.
So sweet. Thank you, Adita. Thank you. Such a pleasure talking to you.